بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والجنة للموحدين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the choicest of blessings and salutations upon our Master Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I want to apologize to our brothers and sisters that I was not able to have class in its prescribed time this afternoon. We are currently on a holiday in Cape Town, and something that I failed doing for the better part of my life as a father or a husband was spending enough time with the family. So I'm trying to catch up for the years that I missed in spending time with the family. And therefore we're conducting class this time and not earlier. I may not be able to make class in its prescribed time tomorrow as well, but our brother, my co-imam Shafi'i Ahmed, will inform the class in due time, inshallah ta'ala. In our dars last week, alhamdulillah, we have now reached, in our discussion and class on Lubb al Usul, we have reached lesson 9. Last week in lesson 8, we discussed matters related to mantiq and how knowledge works. And we spoke about at-tasawwur and tasdeeq. We spoke about idrak, which is وصول النفس إلى معنى أو وصول النفس إلى صدق القضية. And we said that idrak is divided into 4 categories: jazim, which is yaqeen; الراجح, الإدراك الراجح والظن; متساويا والشك; and مرجوحا والوهم. And we spoke about the difference between علم الضروري وعلم النظري, and the fact that علم الضروري, because علم in itself, the manatiq I would discuss, has levels. All ilm is not the same. Al-daruri is of a higher standard and nadari is of a lower standard. And then we also mentioned that the التصور الضروري والتصور النظري and التصديق الضروري والتصديق النظري, and that basically captured the entire discussion that our author produced. There was one thing that I did not mention last week, just in terms of clarity. Our author, he said that والعلم عقبه مكتسب. Who remembers the عبارة of the author? He said that والعلم عندنا, يعني عند الأشاعرة، عقبه مكتسب في الأصح. That discussion actually ties into another discussion where Asha'ira differ with Maturidiyya, and that is, I may have mentioned this in the past, the fact that I applied my nazar towards a particular matter, or I applied my nazar into a dalil which produced a natija, which is ilm. We said that basically the difference between us and the Mu'tazilites is that the Mu'tazilites say that your nazar by necessity brings about ilm. We say that it's muktasab, and what muktasab means is that your nazar is one thing. The product of your nazar is a separate entity which is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's similar to our discussion on fire. We say the fire is one thing. Then the fire produces tahriq, which is burning. The burning of the fire does not create burning, but Allah creates burning. And Allah also creates the rabata between burning and the fire. So similarly, your nazar doesn't create ilm, but rather it's a medium and from which Allah creates ilm. And that's part of the discussion. وَالْعِلْمُ عِنْدَنَا أَقِبَهُ مُكْتَسَبْ فِي الْأَصَحِ. Shafi, don't you want to connect that device?
Which one?
It's on.
It's on.
I'm just switching over to a more stable internet connection. If you give me 1 second. What's it called? Huawei what? 26 E8.
Yes.
I'm on a better internet connection now. Okay. The rest of the discussion of Shaykh al-Islam with regards to this mabhath mantiqi has basically been covered. We looked at the had, we looked at ما يميز شيئا غيري، الجامع، المانع يعني الجامع لأفراد المحظور، المانع من دخول غيرها في المضطرد المنعكس. We discussed the rest of the discussion was somewhat covered in our previous discussion. I don't want to return to this discussion today. We need to move forward and we need to continue. And thus we commence with lesson 9. And I'm just sharing my screen with you so that you can see what I am seeing. So there we have lesson 9, Lubb al Usul. This is what we're going to look at today. Al-Hasan wal-Qabih. This is not the same discussion that we had previously about Al-Husn wal-Qubh. Shar'iyan la aqliyan. That discussion covered. We discussed it in enough detail for this level of study. And I'm sure everyone who covered that class developed a deep appreciation for the concept of Husn and Qubh and how even though the Mu'tazilites may be something of the past, how new sects are constantly returning to old discussions. And I made a reference to modernists and feminists. Al-Hasan wal-Qabih. We're looking at another concept, جائز الترك ليس بواجب. We'll be discussing al-mandub ma'murun bih, and al-mubah laysa bijinsin lil-wajib, and al-hujub idha nusikha baqi al-jawaz. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discussions that we hope to conclude in this evening's dars, inshallah ta'ala. It's late here in Cape Town. Not late, but late for the dars. So we won't, class won't be too long, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So the first thing is, our author, he began by saying that يقول المصنف رحمه الله تعالى نفعنا الله بعلومه وبكم في الدارين آمين الأصح أن الحسن ما يمدح عليه والقبيح ما يذم عليه فما لا ولا واسطة. If you're reading this, just the matan, and you understand what the author is saying without having studied this before, then you would be a master in the reading of the Arabic language. There has to be a khalfiyya to the discussion. If there's a khalfiyya to the discussion, you will appreciate what the author is saying. So the first thing is al-asah, يعني يشير بقول الأصح أنه وقع خلاف بيننا الأشاعرة. قول الأصح لا يشير إلى من؟ إلى المعتزلة، بل يشير إلى الأشاعرة. وقع خلاف بين الأشاعرة، والأصح أن الحسن, that حسن, which means good, is ما يمدح عليه, is that which is praiseworthy. يعني the person who does it is praiseworthy, or the action is praiseworthy. والقبيح ما يذم عليه, and qabih is that which is, what's the opposite of praiseworthy? Blameworthy. The action is blameworthy, or the perpetrator of qabih is blameworthy. Now, my first note in the slide is all coming up at once. It's supposed to come up individually. I said that يبدأ المصنف الكلام على أحد. So the author here, he commences with a discussion. He's going to be discussing 11 مسائل, 11 مسألة. All of it is من متعلقات الحكم. I already indicated to this previously when I said that the hukam is broken up into several discussions in relation to various things. And here the author commences with, he's going to cover So 11 masail that relates to the hukam. The first is the one that Hasan and Qabih is ma yumdah alayh wa ma yudhammu alayh. So since Hasan is ma yumdah alayh, it comprises of, I have written here, فيشمل الحسن الواجب والمندوب. That which is praiseworthy refers to that which is wajib and that which is mandub. If Allah made something wajib, it must be praiseworthy. If Allah made something mandub, it must be praiseworthy. If somebody executes wajib, he must be praised for it. And if he executes mandub, he must be praised for it. This is actually a very interesting discussion. It's interesting because sometimes our spouses, the husband pays nafaqah. The husband pays nafaqah. I'm just looking quickly here. MashaAllah. We are very little that logged in this evening, subhanAllah. How many of you are married? Sorry enough for the recording, but give me, you have an option of giving me a thumbs up if you are married. Abdul Rahman, Kareem. Okay, maybe some of you are not by your computers. So sometimes the husband, he fulfills his obligation towards his wife by paying nafaqah. And then the wife says that, do you think I should praise you for doing that which is wajib? You must do it. I don't need to thank you for it. I don't need to praise you for it. So you can say to your spouses that that Hasan is ma yumdah alayh, by necessity. That which is good is in itself praiseworthy, and thus worthy of being thanked. Al-wajib wal-mandub. So Hasan comprises of wajib and mandub, that which is praiseworthy. Whereas qabih is ma yudham alayh. Yani ma yudhammu fa'iluhu alayh, or ma yudham fi'luhu. So that would be haram. So Hasan is wajib and mandub. Qabih is haram. فما لا ولا واسطة. يعني فما ليس لا فما هو لا الحسن ليس بالحسن ولا يعني وليس بالقبيح. That which is neither Hasan nor Qabih is wasita, is a medium between Hasan and Qabih. It's neither Hasan nor Qabih. That's what wasita is. So the next point, if you're looking at my slides, I have here والمكروه وخلاف الأولى وفعل غير المكلف واسطة بينهما بين الحسن والقبيح. That's the only discussion that the author really wants to have over here. In his sharh, he does make a reference to a khilaf that Tajuddin as-Subki in the Jamal Jawami actually gave tarjih to, but Shaykh al-Islam actually considers it to be marjuh. And that is that he said there that al-Hasan is fi'l al-mukallaf al-ma'dhun fi. The action of the mukallaf that he is permitted to do is Hasan. And Qabih would be ma nuhiya anhu shar'an. So if I take that definition that Taj as-Subki gave tarjih to in his Jamal Jawami, that says al-Hasan fi'l al-mukallaf al-ma'dhun fi, then what categories of the hukm shari fall under? Is wajib ma'dhun fi? Of course. Is mandub ma'dhun fi? Of course. What about mubah? Ma'dhun fi or not? Shafi? I need to open my chat here. I can't see what you guys are saying. Now, remember, based on our previous definition, Hasan was wajib and mandub. Qabih was haram. And what was not Hasan nor Qabih, and فما لا ولا واسطة, as a medium between Hasan and Qabih. That medium we see as makruh and khilaf al-awla and fi'l ghayr al-mukallaf. That's the rajih. Then he said that وقيل وهو الذي رجحه تاج الدين السبكي. He said what? الحسن فعل المكلف المأذون فيه. The action of a mukallaf that he is permitted to do. So what he's permitted to do is wajib. What he's permitted to do is mandub. What about mubah? Mubah and makruh are both ma'dhun fi. So according to that definition, it forms part of hasan. However, that is a marjuh position, it's not a rajih. Tamam, we go on. He said, وَأَنَّ جَائِزَ التَّرْكِ. When he says وَأَنَّ, what do you understand by وَأَنَّ? What وَأَنَّ? It's ma'toof upon what? والأصح أحسنتم. وأن يعني والأصح أن جائز الترك، أو أن الأصح، أو يعني والأصح أن جائزة معطوفا أصح، يعني يشير إلى أن هناك خلاف في هذه المسألة كذلك. فقال وأن جائز الترك ليس بواجب والخلف لفظي. When it's permitted for you to omit something, then that thing, it is permitted for you to omit an action, that action cannot be wajib. When it's permitted for you to omit an action, that action cannot be wajib. What are the examples they give? The example of the ha'il. Now, when the action is not wajib, then there's a question. The action could either be permissible, as permissible for you to leave the action, that's established. The action that is permitted for you to leave could either be wajib or it could be haram. Right? I give an example of haram. A lady that experienced hayd, is it permissible for her to leave salah? Yes. If it's permissible for her to leave salah, then salah cannot be wajib. Jaiz at-tark laysa biwajib. In the case, the example I've given of the lady that has a menstruation, salah is actually haram for her. So the action that is permissible for her to leave is actually haram. وَأَنَّ جَائِزَ التَّرْكِ لَيْسَ بِوَاجِبٍ. Now, another example where the action is not haram, and then the rule still applies all the same, جَائِزَ التَّرْكِ لَيْسَ بِوَاجِبٍ, is a traveler. A traveler, is it permissible for him not to fast? جَائِزٌ لَهُ أَن يَتْرُكَ الصَّوْمَ. No. But the actual action, can he fast if he wishes to fast? He can fast if he wishes to fast. So it doesn't matter whether the action is permissible in itself or whether the action is haram in itself. If it's permitted for you to omit the action is not wajib. وَأَنَّ جَائِزَ التَّرْكِ لَيْسَ بِوَاجِبٍ. No. So, however, there is a challenge over here. I have the challenge written down here because this discussion comes up in our usul al-fiqh. Shaykh al-Islam and also thinks an opportunity for us to read from the Ghayat al-Usul. He said, وَقَالَ بَعْضُ الْفُقَهَاء. This بَعْضُ الْفُقَهَاء is actually أكثر الفقهاء. أو قال الفقهاء, يعني معظم الفقهاء. قال بعض الفقهاء يجب الصوم على الحائض والمريض والمسافر مع جواز تركهم له. He's saying, yeah, the fuqaha, they stated something differently. The usulis, Shaykh al-Islam represented the view of usulis that jaiz utark laysa biwajib. If it's permitted for you to leave something, that's wajib. In other words, if it's permitted for the traveler not to fast, fasting is not wajib in relation to him. If it's permitted for the lady experiencing menstruation not to pray salah, it means salah is not wajib upon her. However, the jurists, they said that fasting is compulsory upon the haid, the lady experiencing menstruation. Sorry, the example of the haid is not salah, the example is fasting. The fasting of a lady experiencing menstruation. Now, so it's haram for her to fast, and the fact that it's permitted for her to leave means that it's not wajib for her to fast. The fuqaha, however, say it is wajib. The fuqaha say, يجب الصوم على الحائض. They also say that fasting is compulsory upon the marid. And they also say fasting is compulsory upon the musafir. Can you see how the fuqaha are stating a view that opposes the view of the usul? The usuli say جائز الترك ليس بواجب. The fuqaha are saying لكن يجب الصوم على الحائض ويجب الصوم على المسافر. They're saying fasting is compulsory. Even though it's permitted, they are permitted to leave it out. The haid must leave out fasting, but fasting is wajib, they say. The traveler can leave out fasting, but fasting is wajib. Why is it wajib? Because Allah said in the Quran that فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever witnesses the month, let him fast. It's like amr, al-amr bil-wujub. وَهُمْ شَهِدُوهُ. They witnessed the month. The haid, did she witness the month of Ramadan entering? Yes, she did. The traveler, did he witness the month of Ramadan entering? Yes, he did. وَلِوُجُوبِ. So that's the first region. لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى هذا هو الدليل الأول. وَلِوُجُوبِ. This is an interesting thing that I'd like to share with you, just in terms of the reading, the text of our jurist. Now, when he says لِقَوْلِهِ and وَلِوُجُوبِهِ, then that li indicates dalil. Something for you to keep in mind. Even, as simple as it may sound, many students, they don't appreciate this. لِقَوْلِ يعني indicating dalil. The first dalil why the jurists say that fasting is compulsory, wajib upon the traveler and wajib upon the lady experiencing menstruation. خِلَافًا لِمَنْ لِلْأُصُولِيِّينَ is Allah said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. So since they witnessed the month of Ramadan, they should fast. Fasting is compulsory upon them. Second dalil, وَلِوُجُوبِ الْقَضَاءِ عَلَيْهِمْ بِقَدْرِ مَا فَاتَهُمْ فَكَانَ الْمَأْتِيُّ بِهِ بَدْلًا عَنِ الْفَائِدِ. Second reason is that for both the musafir and the haid, they must make qada of the fast. They must make qada. If it was not wajib upon them, why must they make qada? So what are the jurists seem to be saying? They're saying that جائز الترك قد يكون واجب. And the usulis are saying جائز الترك ليس بواجب. So the usuliyun are going to respond وأجيب. وأجيب يعني يجيب الأصوليون بأن شهود الشهر موجب عند انتفاء العذر لا مطلقا. Saying first of all, witnessing the month of Ramadan makes fasting compulsory in the absence of an excuse, not mutlaqan, as not whoever witnesses. No. What would serve as a dalil for that? The person who is terminally ill, or لا يرجع برؤه, he has a sickness that he doesn't expect to be cured from. Fasting never becomes compulsory upon him. There's no qada for him. Right? So the first response they say is that witnessing the month is only makes fasting compulsory when there is no excuse. If there is an excuse, they're not necessarily making fasting compulsory. Second, the response to the second argument, وجوب القضاء عليهم بقدر ما فاتهم، بأن وجوب القضاء إنما يتوقف على سبب الوجوب، وهو هنا شهود الشهر وقد وجب، لا على وجوب الأداء، وإلا لما وجب قضاء الظهر مثلا على من نام جميع وقتها. That's interesting. So he said that the fact that the musafir, the traveler, must make qada of his fasting, and the fact that the haid must make qada of her fasting is not based on the fact that fasting was compulsory upon the traveler while he was traveling. Neither is it based on the fact that fasting was compulsory upon the haid while she experienced menstruation. Right? It is based on the fact that the month was witnessed. Bear with me. The fuqaha, the second argument why they're saying that جائز الترك قد يكون واجب. They're saying the musafir, even though it's permissible for him not to fast, fasting is compulsory upon him. The usuli say fasting is not compulsory upon him. What is the dalil? They're saying he has to make qada. The fact that he has to make qada means that fasting was compulsory upon him. So the usuli say no. The fact that he must make qada is because the month entered, not because fasting was compulsory upon him while he was traveling. Right? لا على وجوب الأداء. It's based upon سبب الوجوب لا على وجوب الأداء. Can you understand the difference between the two? The faqih said qada is compulsory because ada was compulsory. The usuli says no. Qada is compulsory because of the sabab of wujub, which is shuhud al-shahr, not because ada was compulsory. وإلا لما وجب قضاء الظهر مثلا على من نام جميع وقتها. Otherwise, qada of salat al-dhuhr would not have been compulsory upon somebody who slept through the entire waqt. If you're following this discussion at all, it's really clear. And it's brilliant at the same time. If a person's dhuhr enters at, let's say, 1 o'clock, and dhuhr ends 4 o'clock. If a person sleeps from 12 o'clock till 5 o'clock, he's sleeping throughout the waqt of dhuhr. Tamam? Must he make qada of dhuhr? Must make qada of dhuhr. Was dhuhr compulsory upon him during the waqt of dhuhr? No. If you say dhuhr was compulsory upon him, then you're saying that the ghafil is mukallaf. And we said that the ghafil is not mukallaf. So, if you are saying that qada fasting is the musafir must make qada of his fast because fasting, making ada of his fast was compulsory and therefore qada is compulsory, then you're sitting with a problem when it comes to the person who slept the entire waqt of dhuhr. Because ada wasn't compulsory for him, but qada is compulsory. Which tells you that qada goes back to sabab al-hujub, la ila ada al-hujub. Right? Or rather hujub al-ada, la ila hujub al-ada. If you understood that, alhamdulillah, I'm not going to. If you listen to the recording, if you did not, it's a subtle point, but a beautiful point. فالحاصل أن جائز الترك ليس بواجب. And the position of the usuliyun seems to be much stronger than that of the fuqaha. The reasoning of the usuliyya seems to be much more sound. Then he said at the end of the day, wal khulf lafzi. The ikhtilaf at the end of the day is just lafzi. Why does he say it's lafzi? Because in ma'na they agree. How are they agreeing in ma'na? Because both the usuli and the faqih agrees that for the traveler not to fast is permissible by agreement. They all agree that it's not compulsory upon the traveler to fast. If they have the traveler, because the traveler has an excuse. And they all agree also that the traveler must make qada once he returns home. So in terms of the ma'na, they all agree. The khulf was just saying, I love the khulf. Now, hukam is the same now. Ahsantu. What's next? وأن المندوب مأمور به وأنه ليس مكلفا به كالمكروه بناء على أن التكليف إلزام ما فيه كلفة لا طلبه. I don't think I have any slides on this. I didn't get that far. He said that and mandub is ma'mur bihi. All this entire discussion is just when it comes to something which is mandub, can you say that amarani rabbi? Can I contact? When the Shari' Allah made tahajjud salah sunnah mandub, can I say amarani rabbi an usalli salat al-tahajjud? Yes, you can. Why? وأن المندوب مأمور به. It is مأمور به. Sometimes يعني أمره, the verb أمره. The verb أمره حقيقة refers to وجوب. When I tell you if'al, does it refer to hujub? Sorry, I'm going to rephrase myself now. The ikhtilaf here comes down to the command, if'al. Does it haqiqatan refer to hujub, meaning it's something you must do? Or does it refer to talabul fi'al? And talabul fi'al could be طلب مني أن أفعل شيئا وجوبا وطلب مني أن أفعل شيئا ندبا. So طلب الفعل doesn't necessarily indicate وجوب. That's what the اختلاف comes down to. Now, and the fact that he's saying that mandub is ma'murun bihi means that they're saying that حقيقة أمر refers to طلب الفعل and not إيجاب. No. However, the details of this will come at a later stage, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So that's amara. وأن المندوب مأمور به. That which is mandub is مأمور به. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he met a group of men that came from Persia, and they had beards that were shaven and mustaches that grew over their lips, the Prophet sallallahu asked him, "Man amaraka bihada?" Who instructed you to do this? And they responded that their God. Of course, in their shirk, instructed them. And then the Prophet responded and said, وَأَمَرَنِي رَبِّي, my Lord commanded me that I trim the mustache and grow the beard. فَذَلِكَ أَمر. حقيقة, what does it mean? طلب الفعل. No. حقيقة, and therefore وأن المندوب مأمور به وأنه ليس مكلف به كالمكروه. The next question is, are you mukallaf to do that which is mandub, or you're not mukallaf? It comes down to what the definition of taklif is. You mentioned it the other day. What is taklif? The brothers can answer here in the chat also. Taklif. إلزام ما فيه كلفة. Didn't you mention the other day? Taklif is إلزام ما فيه كلفة. لا طلب ما فيه كلفة. إلزام. So if mukallaf means that you are mulzam, yani obligated to fulfill or duty bound to execute ما فيه كلفة, then mandub is not, you are not mukallaf, duty bound to execute mandub. Similar to that is makruh. No. لأن التكليف هو إلزام ما فيه كلفة من فعل أو ترك. So تكليف, you are mukallaf with الإيجاب and you are mukallaf with تحريم, يعني بما هو واجب وبما هو حرام. أما المندوب والمكروه فأنت لست بمكلفا به. You won't say that you're mukallaf to do something which is mandub. لأن التكليف إلزام وليس طلب. أما المندوب والمكروه ف يعني you are يعني مطلوب منك أن تجتنب المكروه وأن تمتثل وتؤدي المندوب. يعني أنت مطلوب به ولست مكلفا به أو ملزما به. فقال وأن المندوب مأمور به وأنه ليس مكلفا به كالمكروه بناء على أن التكليف إلزام ما فيه كلفة لا طلبه. نعم. نعم. Thereafter he enters a discussion and he says that, back to my screen here, وأن المباح ليس بجنس للواجب وأنه في ذاته غير مأمور به وأن الإباحة حكم شرعي والخلف لفظي. نعم. وأن المباح والأصح أن المباح ليس بجنس للواجب بل هما نوعان لجنس وهو فعل المكلف الذي تعلق به حكم شرعي. What do they mean by ليس بجنس الواحد? They're not from the same genes. Why? Because why would somebody suggest that mubah and wajib is from the same genes? Because there's something similar between them. There's something that creates the impression that they're from the same genes. And that is, both of them are ma'dhun fi. Wajib, are you ma'dhun fi when it comes to wajib? Yes, wajib wa ma'dhun fi. You're permitted to do so. In fact, you have to. And mubah, is it ma'dhun fi? Mubah is also ma'dhun fi. So, قد يتوهم متوهم أن المباح من جنس الواجب. فقال المصنفون والأصح أن المباح ليس بجنس للواجب. نعم. Why? What is the difference? واجب is مأذون فيه لكن تمنع من تركه أو منع من تركه. You are prevented from leaving it out. You must do it. وما يثاب على فعله ويعاقب على تركه. ويعاقب على تركه. أما المباح فهو مأذون فيه، يعني مأذون في فعله وكذلك مأذون في تركه. فالمباح ليس بجنس للواجب. والخلف لفظي. The اختلاف however is لفظي. نعم. So how is the اختلاف لفظي? Those who say that mubah is min jins al-wajib, they do so على معنى أن المباح يعني في أصله مأذون فيه فهو كالواجب. على ذاك المعنى. Those who say that المباح ليس من جنس ليس بجنس للواجب, they do so على معنى أنه المباح يعني المخير فيه. المخير فيه يعني مأذون فعله ومأذون تركه. But essentially they agree what wajib means and they agree what mubah means, just that the اختلاف is لفظي. والأصح أنه في ذاته غير مأمور به وأنه يعني المباح في ذاته غير مأمور به. نعم. غير مأمور به يعني you are not being requested to do it. مأمور بمعنى مطلوب فليس بواجب ولا مندوب. Why is that important? Why? Because some of the scholars they stated that mubah is ma'mur bihi. How does mubah become ma'mur bihi? They say that there is no mubah except that by doing it you are leaving out a haram. How? Yes. Being silent, is it mubah? It's mubah. However, when being silent leads to you not accusing another person of committing adultery, then that mubah thing now became tark haram. And if it's a tark haram, then it's ma'mur bi. Do you see? نعم. أبو القاسم عبد الله بن أحمد البلخي الكعبي الخراساني شيخ المعتزلة. He held the view that مباح is مأمور به. إذ ما من مباح إلا ويتحقق فيه ترك حرام ما. فيتحقق بالسكوت ترك القذف وبالسكون ترك القتل. Remaining still doing nothing, is it مباح? نعم, it's مباح. But remaining still means that you're leaving out haram. Avoiding haram. Sitting at home, mubah. But sitting at home means I'm not going to the casino. Sitting at home means I'm not going to a disco. Sitting at home means I'm not going to commit zina. So he said, ما من مباح إلا ويتحقق به ترك حرام. No. Then he produces the قاعدة وترك الحرام واجب وما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب فالمباح واجب. لكن ابن شيخ الإسلام is saying وأن المباح الأصح أن المباح ليس من جنس للواجب وأنه في ذاته غير مأمور به. Why? At the end of all of this it is الخلف لفظي. Because at the end of the day people are looking at mubah from a different lens. If you're looking at the mubah from the lens that every mubah in reality leads to the omittance or avoidance of that which is haram, then through that lens, huwa min jins al-wajib. But if you're looking at through the lens that says what? Mubah is mukhayyar, anta mukhayyar bayna fi'lihi wa tarki, then you say laysa min jins al-wajib. Therefore he said والخلف لفظي. And then ibaha is a hukm shar'i at the end of the day he's saying, and we know ibaha is a hukm shar'i because we covered that already. Because ibaha, something which is mubah and is takhyir bayn al-fi'l wal tark, is giving you a choice. Allah's خطاب الله المتعلق بأفعال المكلفين اقتضاء أو تخييرا أو وضعا. So the hukm shari includes takhir. When Allah gives you a choice between doing something and not doing something, that is a hukm shari. And its ruling is based upon shar. Now, there's another discussion that comes up here. What is the discussion? الأصل في الأشياء الإباحة. الأصل في الأشياء الإباحة. Is that a hukm shari, yes or no? When we say the default is no. A hukm shari is خطاب الله المتعلق بفعل المكلف اقتضاء أو تخييرا. I want to eat a fruit. They created a hybrid between a nachi, I don't know if you guys know what a nachi is, and an orange, and they created what? It's called a nectarine. That's it. Is it nectarine? In between a nachi and an orange. So we have here, I don't know if you have it. We have very good fruit here in South Africa, mashallah. So they took the nachi plant and the orange plant and created a third fruit, a hybrid, if you want to call it a hybrid. Is it permissible for me to eat it, yes or no? Okay, that's not a very good example because you can say that Allah said, وَحِلَّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. But let's assume something comes about that we determine is mubah based on the ruling and asl fil ishya al-ibaha. There's no hukka, there's no khitab of Allah addressing that particular thing. That concept is born from the aql. Now, from the text, technically it comes from the text that gives us the impression وَالَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ, Allah created for you whatever is in the earth. So from there they drew a rule or a maxim that says that the default regarding all things are that they are permissible. There's more detail to that, but that's the basic rule. That's not necessarily a hukm. That ibaha is not a hukm shar'i. So therefore, al-khulf lafzi over there. وأن الإباحة حكم شرعي. وحكم شرعي in the sense that if Allah's khitab addresses something بالتخيير, then it's a hukm shar'i. But if it's born from al-asl fil ashya al-ibaha, if you're looking at ibaha through al-asl fil ashya al-ibaha, then technically it's not hukm shar'i. And therefore, depending on how you look at it, the khulf is lafzi. Otherwise, people, the scholars are not necessarily differing with each other. They're just looking at it from a different perspective. وأن الوجوب إذا نسخ بقي الجواز. Something which is compulsory, when naskh is made of it, then it remains permissible for you to do the thing. Just give me 1 second, I'm just looking for something here. Does anybody know examples of this one while I'm looking for something? Now, so this mas'ala, the way it works is that when they say baqi al-jawaz, then jawaz doesn't necessarily mean mubah. What jawaz means is adam al-hajar haraj, adam al-haraj fil fi'al wa tark. If something was wajib, then the wujub is removed, abrogated. That action remains jaiz. Jaiz bima'na adam al-haraj fil fi'li wa tarki. So it could be mubah, it could be mandub, it could be makruh. So if something was wajib and then naskh is made of that, it remains jaiz bima'na, it could either be mandub, makruh or mubah. Now, however, if naskh is made with tahreem, then it's a different story. What I'm thinking of an example of this. An example would be it was wajib to face what qibla before naskh was made of it? Huh? Al-Aqsa now. So wajib to face. When Allah made naskh of that, does it remain permissible for you to face, yes or no? Technically it's supposed to be permissible. إذا نسخ الوجوب بقي جواز. However, the reason why you cannot face Masjid al-Aqsa in Salah, because there was another nas that made it impermissible. There's a nas that makes it haram for you to face. وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطَرًا. The Quran said, only face the Qibla. Now, here's an example. Imam Bukhari narrates a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, أَفْطَرَ الْحَاجِمُ وَالْمَحْجُومُ. The hajim, the one performing cupping, and the mahjum, the person upon whom cupping has been performed, after both of them have broken their fast. So this narration indicates to the fact that hijama, cupping, is impermissible. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he had cupping performed while he was fasting. But how is this an example of baqi al-jawaz? Okay, that's not a good example right now. That's an example of tahreem. So anyway, I don't have an example here, unfortunately, of إذا نسخ الوجوب بقي الجواز. لكن the قاعدة is, the rule rather is simple. That if something was wajib and naskh was made of it, it remains جائز بمعنى عدم الحرج في الفعل والترك. Allah. And that brings us to the end of the discussion. And like I said, it's after Isha here in Cape Town, so it's a bit late. I don't know what the time is in your countries, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. How many masail did we cover today? I think 5 in total. What was the 5? Can somebody mention them? First one was that Al-Hasan ما يمدح عليه والقبيح ما يذم عليه. That was number 1. What was number 2? جائز الترك ليس بواجب. نعم. What was number 3? المندوب مأمور به، يعني بمعنى مطلوب. Number 4. الندب ليس تكليفا. Read it again.
وأنه ليس مكلفا به كالمكروه.
نعم. الندب ليس تكليفا. And then the last one was
وأن المباح ليس بجنس للواجب.
أن المباح ليس بجنس للواجب. And discussions related to that. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah accept. May Allah allow us to understand these masail that have been discussed. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Muhammad Matar is asking, based on what the fuqaha, I think, said, can a woman who is menstruating follow this opinion and fast? No. Therefore, the khulf is lafzi. All agree that she cannot fast. No. All agree that she cannot fast. The only thing is that is fasting compulsory upon her? The fuqaha are not saying that fasting is. The fuqaha is saying that the fact that it's permissible for her not to fast, or the fact that she should not fast, does not mean that fasting is not compulsory upon her. They're saying that the hukam of hujub is resting on her shoulders in her dhimma, except that she cannot do it because there's a mani' alladhi huwa al-hayd. There's hayd preventing her from executing. So when they say it's wajib, they mean that the hujub settles in their dhimma. I'm sure everyone appreciates the term dhimma. The dhimma is like a cloud that rests on your seat of responsibility, that's your dhimma. So the wujub of fasting settles in a dhimma. It remains there in a dhimma, but there's a mani preventing her from fasting. So when that mani is removed, then she has to make qada. The usuli says no. They say that at that point in time, it's not wajib. At that point in time, it's not wajib. Which is interesting. I think there are certain fawaid to this khilaf. I can think of some fawaid in my mind, but I don't want to raise it right now. Our jurists often, when they speak, they discuss a khilaf, they say, what is the benefit of the khilaf? I can see something being born from this discussion, but I don't feel it healthy to raise it now. Barakallahu fikum. For the case the lesson tomorrow will be delayed, where will we get the information? Naam. I just need to, there's a family engagement tomorrow that when I get home, I should have confirmation. So I'll send out a message after Fajr tomorrow morning. That is, it's now 9:30, 10, 11, 12, 1, 8 hours from now. 8 hours from now, you'll know exactly what time class will take place, inshallah. Marhaban. I've sent a message to the WhatsApp group. For those who did not receive the message, I apologize. We were under the impression that all our brothers and sisters that attend the live class are part of the WhatsApp group. And it would seem now that some of you are not. So what I'll do is I'll arrange with the admin to send out an email tomorrow morning, inshallah. So 8 to 10 hours from now, I don't know how long the admin will take to send out an email. I will confirm whether class continues usual time or whether it may be a bit later, inshallah. Those who are not in the WhatsApp group, if you are on WhatsApp, try to join the group. There should be some beneficial discussion that takes place over there. Yesterday in the fiqh class, by way of example, I said that based on reading that I've done many years ago, I remember Imam Nawawi in his Majmu' stating that drying one's limbs when performing wudu is not makruh. He says it's khilaf al-awla, but not makruh. One of our students, Imam Shafi, he found that text in the Majmu' and he was able to share it with everyone in the WhatsApp group. So there's benefit to be in the group. I don't know what the group was like, but hopefully no Jumu'ah messages are coming through to the group. No. Barakallahu feekum. تقبل الله منا ومنكم. بهذه النوايا وما نوى سلفنا الصالح وما نوى سيد الحبيب عمر وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الفاتحة. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.